You are being recorded, so now anything you say can and you will be used against you in a court of law or someplace else. I don't know. We are in Acts chapter 19. Finally, 18 took longer than I thought it would, like 8 did. And that's just a part of the learning process for studying narrative. You dig into the narrative and doors open up and whole worlds open up that you never saw lying underneath the thick forest. There's a whole world underneath there. And that's what's happened in this study of Acts. I did this book back in 2006. Who was here for that? 1, really? 2, they were. Wow. Yeah, it's been that long. 2006, so that's 16 years ago. And I hardly have used the notes. And almost nothing, very little of what I've said this time around is what I said the first time around. That's how much it can change. And particularly on these missionary journeys, because we tend to think of them as a travel chronicle. It is a travel chronicle from the human standpoint. On the ground in Paul's life, there's a travel chronicle, and Luke is recording it, and he's doing it quite specifically sometimes. But then there's the gospel itself, which is advancing. And you're going to see another statement about that, to that effect, in this chapter in Asia. But it's advancing and it's taking territory. And it went from Asia in the second journey, it advanced for the first time. And I think that's exactly what Luke means. It again, without Paul's consent, it advanced from Asia. It didn't even, the gospel marched through Asia without stopping and advanced into Macedonia and Achaia before it's going to get back into Asia and advance through Asia. And the advance through Asia is going to be the big one. Asia, the place that Paul was not allowed to preach the gospel on his second journey, will be the place, will be the final climactic battle scene, if you will, in Acts between the gospel and these other two worlds that it's colliding with, Orthodox Hellenistic Judaism and Greco-Roman paganism. And here comes Christianity. And who's going to win? And so what you saw in Macedonia and Achaia, that's the way I'll say it, is in Philippi and Thessalonica and Corinth, you see the gospel advance and take territory. And churches are planted, and it's very upsetting to the other worlds that are there. Now it's going to move to Ephesus, and from Ephesus, it's going to move across to Asia on what we call the third journey. It's hardly a distinction in the narrative. There's hardly a distinction between the second and third journey. Remember that? It's that one single verse. Look how fast that happens. Narrative compression matters, right? When you study the Bible, pay attention to these kinds of things. Paul gets back from the second journey. He's in Ephesus in chapter 18. By chapter 21, he's in Ephesus. By chapter 22, or verse 22, he's in Antioch. By 24, the narrative is already back in Ephesus, anticipating the arrival of Paul, who will get there in chapter 19, verse 1. That's how fast it happens. So the second journey isn't really a missionary journey. It's the church in Ephesus now with this assault, if you will, this advance through the rest of Asia. But it's not a journey around a bunch of cities. He strengthens the churches that he had already planted in Galatia in 23 on his way to get to Ephesus as fast as he can. So it's this big end to run, right? I mean, he was forbidden to preach the word in Asia. So he comes, he does what he's told at Macedonia and Achaia. He gets to Ephesus. There's some kind of seed planted there. Aquila and Priscilla are left behind just in time for Apollos to get there. We'll meet up with him again for just a moment in 19:1. Paul immediately leaves because he wants to get to Jerusalem. He gets to Jerusalem. He greets the church. He goes to Antioch, which is the new center or the latest center of the proclamation, on his way to get back to Ephesus in chapter 19 as fast as possible. Because in his mind, that's where the action is. That's where it's going to happen. And so the proclamation then, which was centered in Jerusalem, which then moved to Antioch, Jerusalem falls off the picture. Now Antioch is going to fall off the picture, out of the picture, and Ephesus will be the center of the proclamation and the center of the narrative on its way to Rome. And after Ephesus, it's going to be Rome. So it's kind of Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, Antioch, Ephesus, Rome.
Yeah.
And the narrative moves from these. Yes, there's travels, there's regions. The first journey is Galatia, the second one is Macedonia and Achaia, the third one is Asia. There's regions, but they're associated with cities. And so the cities go from, not in Galatia. We don't have any letters to any churches in Galatia. We have a letter to the Galatians, but we have letters. We have, think about this, a journey Paul didn't even intend on making when he started his second journey, the one that broke him and Barnabas up. So it started that way. He goes to Macedonia, which he didn't want to go to, and then Achaia. And out of this journey, we have of Paul's 13 letters, we have the letter to the Philippians, 2 to the Thessalonians, 2 to the Corinthians, and maybe 4, depending on your view of 1st and 2nd Corinthians, and 1st and 2nd Timothy. I'm missing one. Ephesus, Ephesians. Yeah. So we have Philippi, Thessalonians, Corinthians, Ephesians, Timothy. 8 of Paul's 13 letters sprung from work that he did on this journey that he didn't even know he was going to be making this way, because he thought he was going to have a ministry in Asia. He wasn't planning on going to Macedonia. You can also throw Titus in there, probably. I don't know what your view is on this. Titus is never mentioned in the book of Acts. He's in Paul's letter. So somewhere in here. No, that was, I don't think we know that, but maybe you're right. If you can find that, I'd like to know that. But anyway, Titus is out there. Also, he meets someone he meets up with. So maybe 9 of Paul's 13 letters. 9, only 4, all but 4 result from maybe the work that was done on the second journey, which wasn't even according to his itinerary. So this is the second journey, this big sweep, extended sweep down through Macedonia, down to Achaia, where Corinth is, and then a quick stop in Ephesus, and then back to Jerusalem and Antioch, and then hightailing it back to Ephesus on his third journey as fast as he can. This is his third journey, or something like this. I'm not exactly sure how they get these arrows. One thing we'll do, maybe we'll do this today. I'm going to speak at another church in a couple of months, and so I've been working on that because I get way ahead of the ball game because I can do that because I don't have one every week to do. But I kind of divided up this. Refining this timeline. It's going to be called Rome, and so I'm going to do it in 3 parts. We have I have the context of the New Testament. I mean, the New Testament is just infused. The New Testament, especially Luke and Acts, is basically the saga of the proclamation of the gospel through Hellenistic Rome, Roman Empire, right? That's really what that is. And so, here's the rise of Rome, and I think I'm going to go to Luke, which is messianic fulfillment. And then we move on to the Hellenistic advance, which if I was gonna come up with a single phrase to describe what's happening self-consciously in Paul's mind and Luke's, who was a part of this journey as well, and the next, it's a part of this journey and the next one, the third one. I would characterize it as the Hellenistic advance of the gospel. It's not the Acts of the Apostles. There's only one apostle here, that's Paul. It's not acting anything, he's speaking. But it's the story, it's the proclamation of it's the advance of the gospel into hostile territory and taking territory and colliding with these worlds and producing disciples and planting and growing churches. And that's the chaos on the ground. And there's battles being fought. And Paul's a victim from that. And he's going to get scarred from it. And we read about those scars in his letters. He talks about being stoned and beaten and so forth. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do in that other church. I'm going to talk through this whole thing. So you can see it right here. Here's the first journey. How come I must have shared the wrong thing. Screen.
Wow.
That didn't work either. I think I lost the thingy, which we'll have to live with. Give it a minute to come back.
That's better.
Robert, help me out here, man. Screen. That's the one I want, right? It's like, yeah, look at this. This is weird.
I don't see your mouse moving.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, Carrie or Dan, I'm gonna have to shut the Zoom feed down and restart because we have a problem with it. So hold on just a minute.
Hey, it's just like being a Christian.